Historic elections in J&K, and to speak more about these elections is somebody who's contesting for the first time. You are campaigning for your mother. How different is it to campaign for yourself, even when you go into a constituency where your grandfather has had a legacy?
It's definitely lesser pressure because, I'm a debutante. So for my mother, I put a lot of pressure on myself as well. But of course, it's different in the sense that some people know you, some of them don't know you. And there's a lot of explaining that you have to do because there's a lot of despair here, disillusionment here. There's a fatigue with the whole democratic process. So to get that process, to have that dialogue with people is a little difficult.
What made you decide that you should take a political plunge or something? Because you have tried to stay away, you have tried to handle
Yeah.
from behind the curtains, but this time around you're yourself coming.
Yeah.
Is it because of what happened in 2019?
I think it was the party's decision and also our president's decision that I should fight this election. They know that we are going to have a disempowered assembly, but that's why a weak assembly needs strong voices. And because of the role, whatever little role I played post 2019, we spoke as well. We've been talking for the past 5 years. They felt that I can speak in a strong manner because I've always spoken fearlessly. And the party felt that the assembly needs strong voices who can articulate the actual ground realities. Because you see, there's a pervasive fear that exists amongst politicians as well. Because most people are being intimidated, they're being scared, they're being pushed into a corner, which is why the party thought I should take up this role, and I've taken the plunge.
Do you think you have been able to form your own identity? Because you have been telling people in the
Yeah.
interviews that post 2019, there is somewhat the feedback that you're receiving from those people who have seen you on TV talking
Yeah.
about Kashmir. Do you
Yeah.
think that you have been able to carve out your own identity since you're fighting from a place where your
Yeah.
grandfather,
Yeah.
your mother, or other people from your political party have come in and
Yeah.
tried to push you very hard on this?
I have to be very honest with you. Some places where I go door to door, there are women who tell me that this vote is not for you, not for your party, not for your mother, not for your family, it's for you. Because they've seen me for the past 5 years, they feel a certain bond with me. Social media, a smartphone makes it so much easier for you to reach more people, it has that penetrating power. So people have seen me and they identify with me. They feel that this is the girl who spoke when nobody was speaking, when there was pin drop silence. So of course, I am from the Mufti clan. I'm proud to be Mehbooba Mufti's daughter. But I also have a parallel identity which sort of like has fused with Iltija Mufti, the daughter of Mehbooba Mufti. So both are working, I would say, in tandem for me.
How do you see the role of PDP this election? Because you have said that somehow maybe PDP will be a kingmaker in
Yeah.
these elections because you have n number of people contesting,
Yeah.
so there could be
Yeah.
a possibility of a fractured mandate,
Yeah.
or some political parties might need your support to form a government. Is there a
Yeah.
possibility?
I don't know about the possibility, but what I can say for sure is that a non-BJP government is going to come into power and the PDP is going to play an instrumental role. Of course, Mehbooba ji is not going to be the chief minister because she decided to stay away from these elections, and I think that was the right decision for her because somebody of her stature fighting an election in an assembly which is disempowered, I don't think she was very comfortable. But PDP will definitely play the role of a kingmaker. Because it is going to be a coalition government. You travel extensively yourself. You see that there's no wave for a particular party. So we are going to have a hung assembly. That is a real possibility.
You had the National Conference taking a dig at you. They've been attacking you, understandably, because of political battle. Now,
Yeah.
yesterday you had Congress also starting to target PDP. One of its campaigners, who's an MP, said yesterday that the PDP has snatched, in a way, 370 and they have formed a coalition with the BJP. How do you respond to now that Congress, since you're part of an India alliance, which is largely looking to fight BJP, and they are today targeting you or in a way tagging you as a BJP?
I think I feel sad for the NC Congress alliance partners because they take pot shots at each other all the time. Forget pot shots, they've fielded proxy candidates against each other in most of the constituencies. So what will they say? आप खुद शीशे के उसमें हैं तो दूसरे के ऊपर पत्थर फेंकेंगे तो मैं 10 चीज़ें और बोलूँ. But I've said it before, this is not a slugfest. I'm not here to get into that dirty discourse. I want to keep our political discourse as civil as possible. Even when I criticize someone, I do it within the barriers of decency. But you can see the coalition is in tatters. NC Congress ka, they take pot shots, they're fielding proxy candidates, so I have nothing to say to them.
Do you think that Iltija Rashid could play an X-factor role in these polls? Because largely we have seen that Umar Abdullah is also contesting from 2 seats. And then North Kashmir is their stronghold from where Iltija Rashid comes from. Do you think he can play a spoil sport for certain political parties in Kashmir?
I mean, look, I don't know. The NC previously said he said he wasn't going to contest, and then he's fighting from 2 seats. So they say one thing in theory and they do another thing practically. But as far as Engineer Saab is concerned, I'm so glad he was released. He deserves to be out and about. And why 2 weeks? Let him be out. He's also an MP. He's the MP of North Kashmir. People deserve to have him out, right? And even he deserves to be out. And why just him? Release thousands and so many countless number of political prisoners who are languishing in jails. I meet so many women who tell me about how their husbands and sons have been languishing in jails for the past 2-3 years under UAPA, under PSA. As far as his role is concerned, Engineer Saab's, I have been saying this from day one. You don't know the mind of a Kashmiri voter. He's very opaque. They don't express what's in their heart. That's their self-defense mechanism that has evolved over the decades. So I have no clue what's going to happen. Till they don't get into that booth, you don't know who they'll choose.
Do you think that independence is largely a narrative is being floated, that independents are backed by the BJP somehow, and they could play a very important role in forming government if the BJP falls short of majority mark to form a government in Jammu and Kashmir?
I mean, who knows? I think a lot of people feel that BJP has failed, the Indian government has failed. They incubated two Zamanat Zabt 1 and Zamanat Zabt 2, and when that didn't take off, people insinuate that this is a new project, but I don't think it's right to generalize. Let's give everybody the space. Democracy, elections is not my fiefdom, that it's only my right. Let other people come participate. Let's not forget, Ishan, that when the Jamaat was criminalized and the election was rigged by NC, brazen rigging is what led us to this turbulent period, is what caused the conflict. It was the spark that caused the conflict. So let Jamaat, let everybody participate. Let people decide if they want to choose a Mufti, engineer, Jamaat, independent. Let people be the true kingmakers.
The Prime Minister today said that if the manifesto of PDP or the National Conference is implemented in Jammu and Kashmir, it would mean hartals and stole pelting. How do you respond?
I think it's sad. I don't know which manifesto he's reading. I think he's relying on ANI too much for his news source, which is bad, because if he read our manifesto, he would know that it talks about empowering every resident of J&K, every resident that the BJP has consistently tried to disempower and dispossess and disinherit from their own resources since 2019. So I wish he would turn away from ANI and focus on other sources, and I will willingly send him a copy of our manifesto. He's welcome to read it and see what it actually stands for.
When you meet people, because you've been going door to door, that has been your key factor of this particular election. Do you think 370 still resonates with people? Do people talk about 370?
Of course it does. There's a sense of humiliation. They feel that they were collectively punished and humiliated. So 370 will always hold a very special place in their hearts. But having said that, there are local issues as well that need to be solved. I visited a village where a woman told me about how pregnant women, other women in that area, have to walk for kilometers to fetch water. And mind you, it's not even clean water. It's dirty water. To explain that to a woman, if I tell her about 370 and clean drinking water, obviously clean drinking water would resonate more. So there are different issues in different villages. In some villages, there's a pakkad dhakkad ka mahol. Men are being picked up. So different villages, you have different local issues, so you have to talk about 370 and you have to talk about resolving these local issues as well. You can't ignore this at the cost of the other.
Why do you think Mehbooba Mufti stayed away from these posts? Do you think it's a right decision to stay away from them at the moment?
I mean, if she feels so strongly, nobody should force her. And I think if she feels this is the right thing, she's done the right thing. I have said this before as well. My mother's a very emotional being. She uses her heart sometimes more, so she tends to get very emotional. But I feel like we should not cede any democratic space, because once you cede that space, you have other people filling in that space and they might not necessarily have good intentions.
My last question, that where do you see Kashmir Assembly heading, given the fact that it's not so much empowered as it used to be? Where do you think for the next 5 years, if the government is formed in Jammu and Kashmir, where do you think we're headed to?
That depends on us. That depends on the people who will be elected. I feel that an MLA will have the same amount of powers as a chief minister. A chief minister will essentially be the mayor of a municipality. I will be a stronger MLA than a chief minister also if I raise my voice for the right issues. I think what will matter is how much you raise your voice. If you raise your voice, if you raise it forcefully, it's not going to matter if you're a minister or a CM. We've seen Arvind Kejriwal being behind bars for well over 6-7 months. What could he do? Jammu Kashmir will have the chief minister, a Muslim chief minister of a UT. So it's going to be incredibly hard. But as an MLA, inshallah, I intend to raise my voice. That's where my strength will lie.
Thank you so much. So as you heard from Iltija Mufti, that PDP is possibly going to play a kingmaker's role, and they believe that they could win big in the upcoming assembly elections. that will help them gain more seats in Jammu and Kashmir, and that will help them actually play the kingmaker's role.